And the right motivation for the one who needs the non-dualistic realization is to become a bodhisattva, the one who has the bodhi mind. The bodhi mind is the mind which does not differentiate between oneself and others. So this is actually very important, and it is not easy to understand. We need a lot of training in terms of the conceptual understanding, in terms of the understanding by contemplation of the correct concepts, and to realize them with one-pointed mind. We will talk about it today. We need actually one-pointed mind. We need samadhi to practice correctly. Unless we have samadhi, we may practice correctly, but we will not get the realization. The realization is only based on the samadhi. So the first training is, of course, in samadhi. So, and samadhi is based on one-pointedness of mind. We have already explained that. This is common. Whatever motivation we have to get one-pointedness of mind to get close to realization. Otherwise, we are not, strictly speaking, close to realization. Now, the tradition of the disciples is based on the differentiated thinking, on the differentiating mind. This is called in Sanskrit sa vikalpa chitta. It is a mind based on correct differentiation. Correct differentiation is very important. But if we have bodhicitta, we include in the correct differentiation, we include the understanding of the ultimate reality, which is not differentiated. This understanding is called Prajna Paramita, the perfection of wisdom. The path of the Bodhisattva and the motivation of the Bodhisattva is based on this perfection of wisdom. So the differentiating mind is very important, no doubt, but the Bodhisattva realization, and we learn it from the very beginning it is included in the vows of Bodhisattva. The vows of Bodhisattva are based on non-differentiating mind. This non-differentiating mind is open for the nirvikalpa jnana, for the knowledge of non-differentiating mind. I think Rinpoche has already explained that. That is very crucial for our understanding. And we have started with the removing our explanation, with removing obstacles to the pure mind. We can effectively practice Shamatha and Vipassana only when the mind becomes pure. If the mind is not pure, then according to the Mahayana scriptures, strictly speaking, we are not practicing shamatha, we are not practicing vipassana, we are, so to say, adopting mind or aiming at adopting the mind to shamatha and vipassana, to appeasement and insight. So unless the mind is pure, and pure, that's why we started with these 5 hindrances. Pure means when it is free from these 5 hindrances. When it is not freed from the 5 hindrances, it is common to all tradition. It is unable to see things as they really are. And how are the things in Buddhism? It is common to all tradition, dependent origination. This is the nature of all the words. All Buddhist traditions are based on understanding of the dependent origination. But according to the practice of the Bodhisattva, we cannot penetrate the true meaning of the worldly phenomena unless we have the great wisdom. The great wisdom is non-differentiating wisdom. This is very important to understand. Whatever Buddhism we learn, we need actually the great wisdom, the wisdom beyond differentiation, to understand our worldly experience here and now with the 6 senses according to the truth. If we don't have this transcendental wisdom, the wisdom which is not caught in the defilements of the world, so we are not open for bodhi. We are not open for enlightenment. Now in Buddhism, as you may have learned, we have 3 kinds of enlightenment. Enlightenment of the disciples based on correct differentiation. Enlightenment of the Buddhas for themselves based on deep understanding of dependent origination, which is not really connected with the meaning of the scriptures, but which is based on direct one's own experience. So this happens usually in the time where Buddha's teachings is corrupted and not available. And then the realization of the Bodhisattvas. The enlightenment of the Bodhisattvas is non-dualistic enlightenment. It, of course, also relies on correct differentiation, but it is aware that we cannot understand the correct differentiation without studying the non-differentiating wisdom. Now you are learning with Rinpoche especially about the non-differentiating wisdom. The non-differentiating wisdom does not deny the differentiating wisdom, but the differentiating wisdom has to be preceded by direct realization. Only then it can literally see things as they really are, which means they are empty of their own characteristic. The own characteristic of all the phenomena then is the same, which is called emptiness or which is called suchness. So the Bodhisattva studies the worldly phenomena on the principle of suchness. Only with the principle of suchness he can understand the worldly phenomena. This is same in all the Bodhisattva traditions. Now, we don't go into philosophy too much because it is the endless subject. There are many different interpretations. We go to the experience of meditation. So no matter what our inspiration is to become an arahat, individually enlightened, or become a bodhisattva, enlightened without, so to say, differentiating oneself from others, which is, of course, demands much more learning, much more contemplation, and of course, it demands a very continuous practice based on correct wisdom or correct awareness from hearing, correct awareness of what we have heard, of penetrating the concepts, and then actually having the ultimate reality, which is not first a clear concept and then actually beyond all concepts. That is the ultimate realization, Buddha's realization. According to the path of Bodhisattvas, all realizations are realization for the sake of ultimate realization, which is same for all. The Buddha's realization is the ultimate realization. And for ultimate realization, we have to go, so to say, beyond differentiation, beyond the names, beyond sentences based on names, beyond the syllables, beyond particular differentiations and beyond common differentiations. That is to say, beyond everything we can grasp by that beyond everything that can be grasped by mind, because this object of non-differentiating wisdom cannot be, strictly speaking, attained, because nirvana is, in all Buddhist tradition, is not a created phenomena, and that which is not created cannot be born and cannot be destroyed. It cannot be born, it cannot be destroyed. Now, whatever realization we want, we first need the mind which is clear, which is pure, which is endowed with pliancy. This mind endowed with pliancy is a very flexible mind, tolerant mind, and it is always connected with the pure awareness. In the Shravaka tradition, we train in pure awareness by attaining the fourth dhyana. And the emphasis is on training in the dhyana. In the Mahayana tradition, in the Bodhisattva path, the practice of dhyana is not rejected, but most important is this great wisdom, perfection of wisdom. We have to practice with the perfection of wisdom, and we have to attune to perfection of wisdom. Otherwise, we will rely on dharma, which is based on names, concepts, sentences, syllables, generalizations, and particularizations. So it wants to grasp something. But the true mind, from the point of view of perfection of wisdom, there is nothing to grasp, because that which is true exists. And that what exists cannot be subjected to attaining something. When you attain something which you create. But the reality, true reality, is not created. So how do you attain the true reality? First, you have to attain the clear mind, pure mind. That is same. Whatever liberation you want, you have to base it on the clear mind. Now, in the tradition of the disciples, we distinguish very clearly between a training in shamatha, in appeasement, and training in vipassana, in wisdom. There are two kinds of training which cannot be considered the same. So training of disciples in shamatha is, I think I have explained before, is attaining as 8 attainments, attainment in the subtle forms and attainment in the formless, both 4 kinds of attainments. When you master them, you have mastered shamatha. But you have mastered shamatha, you have to apply it to a correct differentiation. The correct differentiation is the aim of the path of disciple. But now you have a desire to become a bodhisattva, so you start with understanding non-differentiation. That which is the ultimate wisdom is beyond differentiation, because it has not been created. When you differentiate, so to say, you divide. In order to divide something, you need desire. And when you have desire, then you, so to say, you base yourself on names, on concepts, on sentences, on syllables, on generalization, on particularization. These things, of course, exist, but only in the created reality, not in the non-created reality. Non-created reality, how you get to non-created reality. The same in all Buddhist traditions, by penetrating non-self, anatma. But the true anatma exists not only in the worldly reality, in the reality of that you can differentiate, but also in the non-created reality. So there is only one reality. There is only one reality, and this reality is called the emptiness or suchness. And this reality is non-dualistic. It is beyond differentiation. Beyond differentiation means that you need a great wisdom, not just differentiating wisdom. You need a great wisdom, which is, so to say, not conflicting with correct differentiation. Buddha always, in all scriptures, emphasizes whatever the wise men in the world say is correct, I also say is correct. What the wise man says in the world is incorrect, I also say is incorrect. I don't argue with the world. No point in arguing with the wise men in the world. But what I insist and what I say is that in order to understand the world, you have to understand something which is beyond the world. And that which is beyond the world is beyond differentiation. It cannot be realized by differentiation. That is the principle of non-dualistic meditation. It must be realized by wisdom, which transcends differentiation. And the Bodhisattva training starts with this motivation to attain the wisdom which is beyond differentiation. Now, I have been trained in Theravada. You start with the wisdom of correct differentiation. These are the aggregates. These are the 6 inner spheres of perception, the 6 outer spheres of perception. This is dependent origination. This is all correct differentiation. Nobody denies it. It is this correct differentiation is based on the 4 foundations of mindfulness. Nobody denies it. This is correct. But in order to understand correct differentiation, you have to understand that which is beyond differentiation. Both correct differentiation and that which is beyond differentiation, you can only understand by samadhi. You cannot understand it by normally functioning mind based on the names, concepts, because we are not deluded by reality. We are deluded, so to say, by the concepts we make about the reality and insist, as Buddha explains, only this is right. But we beings, almost everybody has his own perception of what is right, what is bad, what is beautiful, what is non-beautiful, what is the desirable, what is not desirable. There cannot be a fixed truth concerning the worldly reality. Impossible. There can be only the means, the skillful means to understand how to go beyond the worldly reality. The ultimate reality cannot be penetrated by differentiation. This is a beginning of understanding the Bodhisattva path. So now the explanation of Shamatha and Vipassana also becomes different. The dhyanas, which lead to the purity of the mind, they, of course, very important. It is very good training. When you go through this training, it is very useful. But it is not you cannot attain by this training the ultimate reality. So in the tradition of the disciples, you do this training for the purpose of practicing vipassana. Only by vipassana you can attain the ultimate reality. And vipassana means seeing by correct differentiation. That is the original meaning of vipassana. Now, if you want to practice the bodhisattva path, as the bodhisattva scriptures explain, you start with the bodhicitta. You start with understanding that the ultimate reality is beyond differentiation. So you practice both shamatha and vipassana for the purpose of understanding that ultimate reality you cannot attain by differentiation. But the principle is the same. Whatever ultimate reality you want to attain, you can only attain it by purifying the mind. If the mind is not purified, you cannot have any real understanding of that which is not included in worldly wisdom, that which has not been created. That which has not been created cannot be included in worldly wisdom. But the worldly wisdom can help us to understand it, but it cannot be included in worldly wisdom. The ancient Greeks also were very well aware of it. So we practice shamatha and vipassana, but when we have the bodhisattva vows, when we practice bodhicitta, to have bodhisattva vows means we practice bodhicitta. From the beginning to the end, we practice bodhicitta. And when we practice bodhicitta, then we don't want to separate shamatha and vipassana. In the beginning, we will have to do it, because unless we remove obstacles to purity of the mind, we cannot have any idea of correct differentiation, because we are based on liking, disliking, excitement, worries, non-sensitivity, doubt. With this kind of mind, how can you realize that which is beyond the world? There's no way. So the basic training is the same. First, attain the pure mind, stay in pure mind, and then practice correctly understanding of the ultimate reality, whether it is based on correct differentiation or based on non-differentiation. You have to have the deep experience of dwelling in the pure mind. So the aim of meditation and also the base of true meditation is dwelling in the pure mind. So dwelling in the pure mind means dwelling in samadhi. In samadhi, there is not truly any suffering, because in samadhi, we consider the body not to be so real. We don't attach to the body. There is suffering, but we don't identify with it when we have pure mind. When we don't have pure mind, we of course identify with it. This body is mine. The base for understanding of the self is a body. That which, as the Yogacara Bhumi Shastra and Mahayana scriptures explain, that which enjoys the body is the feeling, that which relates to the form is a perception, and that which exercises will, that is the will factors or samskaras, and that which differentiates, it differentiates according to these samskaras, according to these uh, will factors of the mind. The perception and feeling, or the they are also the samskaras. They've been also put together by the will, but they are most important, as Abhidharma Kosha explains. Therefore, they are taught separately by Buddha. But everything in the world is just samskaras. And the correct differentiating of samskaras is very important, but it is only in it is only the if we believe in truth of differentiation, it is only worldly reality. We have to have experience of that which is not bound to worldly differentiations. And how do we get it? Well, according to the practice of the Bodhisattva, we have to connect and learn to connect Shamatha and Vipassana not as differentiated disciplines, but connect them together in one discipline. You may have been already learning with Rinpoche. This is the essence of training in Zen, in a way, also in Dzogchen. we have to understand the Shamatha and Vipassana as actually coexisting, not as a different discipline. They coexist. Where do they coexist? In samadhi, they coexist in samadhi. And what is samadhi in this particular sense? The samadhi means the balanced mind, the one-pointed mind. When the mind is one-pointed, it becomes balanced. And when the mind is balanced, it can join Shamatha and Vipassana into one training, not a separate training. When the mind is not balanced, it cannot do it. It wants to do it, but it can't do it because it is based on desire. Now, we have learned that the first of all obstacles and the cause of our suffering is desire, greed. Intensive desire is a greed. The Buddha explains the source, cause of suffering is Trishna, Tanha, is thirst. Thirst means desire. Because we have desire, therefore we attach. Because we attach, we don't understand the reality as it is. Please experiment with yourself. You will see this truth very clearly. As soon as we start desiring, grasping, desire in itself, in the worldly existence, we cannot live without desire. But desire leads to grasping. And when one grasps, one cannot be balanced. Impossible. When one grasps based on intense desire, based on thirst, one cannot be balanced. No way. And when the mind is not balanced, it cannot understand the things as they really are. In Buddhist sense, things as they really are, there is no such dharma which we can call uh, ego. I don't say self because self is very problematic translation. Ego, something which has, so to say, own independent existence. So Buddha has investigated existence and he found there is no independent existence, there is no independent body from mind, there is no independent mind from feelings, from perceptions, from will, from differentiation. So what self you talk, what true self, non-changing self are you talking about? So in order to understand the true self, this is Buddha taught in all traditions, you have to understand what is not true self. And what is not the true self? It cannot be something which is conditions, which has arisen due to causes and conditions. That is same in all Buddhist tradition. There is actually only one Buddhist teaching, but the skillful means to realization are different. Now, the skillful means for realization in the path of Bodhisattva is understanding the perfection of wisdom, which is beyond differentiation. And this perfection of wisdom beyond differentiation is the only can be understood in a balanced mind, in a one-pointed mind. And that reality of one-pointed mind is the reality, that reality of samadhi is a reality where the shamatha and vipassana form just one whole, not differentiated. So in this case, what is the aim of shamatha and how to practice shamatha? Of course, we have to appease the mind. In order to appease the mind, we have to stop the obstacles. That's why in Chinese, the shamatha is translated as stopping. We have to stop the obstacles. So that's why we have first explained the obstacles. We have to stop the obstacles to appease the mind. Now, all the obstacles, according to Buddhism, they are based on grasping. When we grasp, we will reject. When we reject, we will be excited, we will have worries. When we grasp, we will be excited. When we grasp, we will always never be rid of our doubts. So that is why the cause of suffering, and according to Buddhism, when we understand truly the truth of suffering, we automatically also can understand the truth of cause of suffering, the truth of end of suffering, and the truth of the correct path leading to the end of suffering. Four noble truths. Actually, four noble truths is one noble truth. According to the non-dualistic understanding, one noble truth, the truth of the emptiness or suchness. The truth of suffering is suchness. The truth of the cause of suffering is suchness. Whether there is a Buddha to explain it or there is no Buddha to explain it, it is just like that. We cannot help it. When we have grasping, there will be suffering. There will be obstacles to the mind. There will be rejection. There will be excitement. There will be worry. There will be non-sensitive one mind, lethargy. There will be doubt. This is the fact. The Buddha did not invent this fact. This is a fact. Whether the Buddha is there, it is just like that. So these four truths of suffering, four truths, they are the fact, they are the suchness. And that there is a reality beyond this continuous flow of the world that is also suchness. Unless there is such a reality, there is no opening for any true realization. And that the differentiation are the mind differentiation, that is also suchness. When we observe the mind, we observe the differentiations. And that all the phenomena that we experience cannot have the true self. That is also the suchness. All the worldly phenomena cannot have the true self. That is also suchness. So all these realities of the Bodhisattva, they are one reality of suchness, which does not oppose the differentiation. The Buddha does not oppose differentiation. He penetrates that whatever is differentiation cannot contain the ultimate reality. This ultimate reality, we can also call it, and it is sometimes done in the Mahayana scriptures, it is called the true self. It is suchness. It is beyond differentiation. Yet it exists in differentiation. So how to get to this suchness? Shamatha Vipassana. How to understand the suchness of the mind? When we practice shamatha, according to Mahayana scriptures, we are concerned with the continuity of the mind. The mind observes the continuity. And when we practice Vipassana, the mind observes the images, the forms, which appear in this continuity. We have to have shamatha in order to have Vipassana. This is teaching of the mind only. Now question whether the mind exists or not exists, that is a different matter. We don't go into that. But when we have concentration, when we have one-pointed mind, then we understand that in a meditation, when we practice shamatha, we don't change the object, whether it be the worldly image, like a breath, image of the breath, or the ultimate reality, which has no image. We don't change the object. When we practice Vipassana, we let the image change. We don't prevent it, but we do not leave the purity of the mind. Because we don't leave the purity of the mind, therefore we can realize the actual purity of the mind. That is a practice. So the purity of the mind, this is especially when we study the Tibetan Buddhism, we should keep it specially in mind, but it is also in all forms of bodhisattva practice. The practice is to stay with the purity of the mind and use all kinds of skillful means to let the mind stay in its purity, which is innate to it. Now, how can purity be innate to the mind? We are always confronted in life with desires, with attachment to desires, with now, are these desires real or not? So this is the difference in approach. Buddha explains the reality based on the dependent origination. He explains the dependent origination starting with ignorance. But ignorance is also dependent. Ignorance does not exist by itself. Due to ignorance, then we create will formations, we have desires. In the world, we live with desires, we cannot live without desire. Then, when our differentiation is based on desires, then we cling to differentiations. When we cling to differentiations, the world is being formed. This happens in the mother's womb, and this happens now also. Whenever we have desire, our world is being formed. Now, question is this ignorance real or is it not real? From the point of view of differentiating mind, it is of course real. But from the point of view of non-differentiating mind, it is not real. How will it not be real? When we have one-pointedness of mind, it will not be real. And until we have one-pointedness of mind, we cannot join Shamatha and Vipassana into one reality. It is not possible. No way. So we have to have this one-pointedness of mind. This is the Mahayana teaching, very important, but it is also not contradictory to any Buddhist teachings, to all traditions of the disciples, also to all traditions of the Bodhisattvas. We can only understand the reality when we have the pure mind. And Pure mind will become pure mind when we have one-pointedness. One-pointedness does not mean that we are, our mind struggles to be one-pointed. One-pointedness means actually that the mind is not disturbed. It is in balance, in perfect balance. And this perfect balance is based on the continuity in adopting to this balance in training in Shamatha and training in Vipassana. In training in Shamatha, we train to keep the same continuity of image in the mind, whatever this image may be, or even continuity of non-image in mind. When we train in keeping the continuity of the object, then we train in Shamatha. When we train in contemplating the images of the mind and letting them be changed without interfering, that means contemplating these images of the mind as the not really separate from the mind itself, from the separating them like images in the mirror. Images in the mirror, they are not same as a mind, they are not different as a mind. Some say they are same, of the same nature as a mind. Some say they are different nature of the mind, but they are neither same nor different. And we can know they are neither same nor different only when the mind is in balance. And so that we can know them, these images of the mind as changing with a balanced mind, we have to train in a shamatha, in keeping the same object in the mind without grasping, without force, without greed. So when the objects are changing, there is no grasping. When the object is not changing, there is also not grasping. So when there is no grasping, according to the Mahayana teachings, we are contemplating the one-pointedness of the mind. In the one-pointedness of the mind, ignorance arises, differentiation arises, but they are not real. They cannot have any real self-existent nature. So in the one-pointedness of the mind, we know that whatever objects appear in the mind, they are not different from the mind. And when we understand the mind, then we can understand the suchness. Because suchness is the true nature of the mind. There is no other nature. And for that, we need the pure mind. Without the pure mind, we cannot understand. No way. So basically, no matter what Buddhist tradition we study, we have to learn so that this purity of the mind arises spontaneously, not because of grasping, but spontaneously. So the Vipassana training is also to let the purity of the mind arise spontaneously. The Shamatha training is also let arise the purity of the mind spontaneously. When it is a case, then we understand that the ignorance is not real. When it is not the case, no way to understand that ignorance is not real. And when the ignorance is not real, then of course the samskaras, the will formations are not real, the differentiations are not real, the clinging is not real. The real does not mean that it is not real, does not mean that it does not exist. It surely exists. Of course it exists, but it exists only in the worldly reality. And according to the teachings of the Bodhisattva, unless we have the wisdom which is beyond the worldly wisdom, the non-differentiating wisdom, we cannot understand the worldly reality. It is impossible because we are based on the false idea that the things really exist. But in all Buddhist traditions, even in Theravada, the Buddha is teaching that the world is empty. If the world is not empty, then we will always be caught in ignorance. It is impossible to go beyond Mara. There are four kinds of Mara in Buddhism. The five aggregates Mara, the death Mara, the defilements Mara, and the God Mara. You cannot go beyond these Maras, four Maras, unless you understand what is beyond the world. And what is beyond the world, you can only understand when you uh, contemplate the one-pointedness of the mind, the balance of the mind. Whether you keep the same object or you change the object, you always contemplate this one-pointedness of the mind, which is pure awareness. So then, of course, the explanation of the shamatha will be different and explanation of vipassana will be different. And the explanation of how to bring them together to form one perfection will also be different. But the basic principle is the same. And that is, first, we have to have samadhi to see things as they really are. That is the same principle, repeated almost in repeated in every tradition. No difference, only interpreted in a different way. So this training in samadhi is the key to understanding. Now, to train in samadhi, according to Buddhism, you need the wisdom from hearing, you need the wisdom from contemplation on what you have heard, and you need the wisdom from meditation, from one-pointedness of mind. These three kinds of wisdom. Now, the wisdom from hearing is different in the Bodhisattva scriptures. The wisdom from hearing is different. It is based on the Paramartha, the highest truth, which is one. It is not two, it is not four, it is not many, it is one. To understand this one truth, of course, you need the samadhi. To understand the two truths, four truths, you also need samadhi. Only the application of samadhi is different. The application of samadhi is, in the tradition of the disciples, is application to the differentiating wisdom. The application of samadhi in the practice of the bodhisattva is also to differentiating wisdom, but only for the purpose of attaining the necessary understanding of the differentiating wisdom, which is beyond differentiation. Without understanding the ultimate truth, which is one truth, even in the scriptures of the disciples, it is said that there is only one truth. The many truths, two, four, and many, is only for the purpose of leading to the one truth. But from the point of view of the Bodhisattva path, this one truth you learn from the very beginning. It is the fact. The suchness is a fact. You learn about this fact from the scriptures, you confirm it by contemplation, and you keep on holding it in mind, understanding it, penetrating it in meditation. So, however we train, most important training is the base of all training is in samadhi. So now, because In a Bodhisattva path, the realization is for the realization is based on great wisdom, which is beyond differentiation. Then also we explain the training in Shamatha and Vipassana in a different way. So in the Mahayana tradition, or in the Sanskrit tradition, based on based on Yogacara, but it is widely practiced in all traditions of Chinese Buddhism and Tibetan Buddhism also. The training in Shamatha is based on the so-called 9 stages of dwelling of the mind, called Chitta Sthiti or Shinju, dwelling of the mind. The mind has to dwell in one-pointedness, which is samadhi, in order to either enter in the jhana on the base of the breath, or contemplation of the kasinas, many objects, for concentration, or to contemplate the one-pointedness of the mind itself. In understanding that these objects that appear in the mind, they are not different from the nature of the mind, which is suchness. When you understood that the objects appearing in the mind, they are not different from suchness, you contemplate the suchness. And that is the aim of the Bodhisattva path, to contemplate the suchness. The training in the 8 samapatis, in the dhyanas, on the differentiated objects, it's also only skillful means for suchness, but it is not suchness. Training in Vipassana on the correct differentiation, it is also not not in contradiction with suchness. It is also just the skillful means of suchness. All Shamatha and Vipassana is a skillful means of suchness, and suchness is a true reality that you are training to learn as the only reality. The only reality in the world, and the only reality beyond the world. There is the world, and beyond the world, they also ultimately form one reality. They cannot be strictly separated, but they are also not the same. Causes, conditions, and results is also not same, not different. This is most important principle of Buddhism. The cause of suchness and the suchness, they also cannot be completely different. But they are not yet, it does not mean that they are the same. The true reality is beyond sameness and difference. And that is the true reality of the mind. That is the true reality of suchness. There is only one reality. So, as far as the Sanskrit tradition is concerned, the training in Shamatha is not just training in the 8 Samapatis as described in the scriptures of the disciples, also in Abhidharmakosha, also in Visuddhimagga. This training is just skillful means. But the ultimate training in suchness is the ultimate training in shamatha is not to attain samadhi, dhyana, absorption on a defined object. It may be very helpful, no doubt, but it is to join shamatha and vipassana in one reality. This reality has always been one reality. It is not that the we are learning something new. That which has not been created and that which has been created, they cannot be strictly speaking different, and they cannot be also same. But we need the correct training to understand them as being neither same nor different. And that training is contemplation of the one-pointedness of mind, of the pure mind. So this training of the pure mind is the training in the 9 stages of dwelling of the mind. And these 9 stages of dwelling of the mind, we will then explain next week. And with reference to the 9 stages of the dwelling of the mind in one-pointedness, in samadhi, we will then refer to the different understanding of vipassana. But I will use myself, I will use mostly the Yogacara tradition, because Yogacara tradition is very useful. The great masters of Tibet, Kamala Shila and so on, they, for them, the worldly reality is the reality described in Yogacara. And the ultimate reality is the reality of Madhyamika. There is no contradiction. Ultimately, they are one reality. So this is the transmission of Tibetan Buddhism in this way. We have to understand both the worldly reality based on deep understanding of the mind and correct understanding of the mind, and then ultimate reality beyond all differentiation. So this reality, true worldly reality, should be based on the deep understanding of the mind. And these 9 stages of shamatha, they are the base for deep understanding of the mind. That's why the 9th stage is called samadhi. Without samadhi, we cannot understand the reality of the mind, and without understanding reality of the mind, we can't understand the reality of the world. This is Buddhism. Okay, so let us finish here. We then transfer and merit. Maybe we ask Rinpoche to let us recite in a Tibetan version, and we continue next week.
Yes, thank you.
And how about we start next week with question and answers, because now we are getting into rather subtle aspects of meditation, and it is very important we understand them correctly. So please let us start with the same time, but with questions,
Yes,
so that
yes,
we
absolutely.
can continue.
Yes,
Okay.
so yes, please continue your dedication, and I will inform something for the next session after my dedication. Thank you.
Okay. So please put it on the screen so that we can also join.
Yes, please. First, you can dedicate yourself, your prayers. Then we will screen the Tibetan one.
So I will use the most shortest Chinese version, because I have been also trained in a little bit in Chinese tradition, or Japanese, which is more or less the same. 愿以自贡的不计一切，我等一众生皆空成佛道. Now let us have the Tibetan version.
Wang, please change the screen. Long rin tenpen be zhen rin len zhou. Nga samben te zon mo nan zhong. Kom zhong wen jie ne loi chi shen sa. Shedra sun jie na wan jen ba shou. Lama kugan samvara sovande. Chondo guzer yambar sovande. Tinle
Please.
arjen jembar sovande. Lama dan jawa member. Shinji lo. Peme ren lo nganjun zombanji. Nyeden nyembo jindan dun jongle. Kange zanden tenba sintenba. Meno jenan chunben zenjunji. Ken lo che son rin lo che. Zamle zazon kyambarbe. Drenjun che son awanda. Menjan de zon gele sho. Thank you very much, everyone. We have concluded today's session here. I would like to ask everyone, as Dhammadipa said before, that he want to start the next session with a question and answer. So if you could send us your questions through the emails to our admin group, our admin, so that would be more nicer. So later I will show the Dhammadipa all questions, so you can more prepared for this for the answer, so saying that, I would like to say have a good night, everyone, and wishing you have a happy new year and good health, and see you soon in the next session. Thank you very much. And yes.
Okay. So see you next week. Bye.
Thank you very much, Dhammadipa, and very, very precious teaching for today. And see you soon in the next week. And wishing you good health. I think it's very cold there, so I would
Yes,
like.
now it's very cold.
Okay.
We are having -11 today. Huh? It's